If we are to look at the key elements of the organs of government, particularly that which has to do with the judiciary, a lot of questions come to mind. The insight into the judiciary and saying if truly the judiciary is independent in Nigeria. It's about what we are looking into today on the program Law and You. Don't forget, Law and You is brought to you courtesy of Noah Attorneys, a firm of legal practitioners based in Benin City, Nigeria. My name is Philip Omo. Shocking waves have been sent across the country, and of course looking at the need for us to bet the true meaning of judicial independence. And we look at developed polities, juxtapose with what we have and the developed polities as compared to the political landscape here in Nigeria. Well, you agree with me that there are certain factors that could influence, that could be constraints to, the issues of getting the judiciary truly independent in Nigeria. And discussing this vital topic with me is a legal practitioner, as we always do, to help share light or give us a clear insight into the topical issues that border on everyone. And he is Emmanuel Obakwalo. Big thanks for joining.
It's a delight being here.
Well, let's look at what judicial independence truly means. I know we've been on this road before now, but let's get an expanded view. What does judicial independence truly mean in the Nigerian context?
Firstly, I'll give you what judicial independence simply means. Then I will now look at the Nigerian context as we see it play out. Judicial independence simply means where the judiciary can see everyone to be the same, equality before the law. And there will be no fear or favor to so hold that position. But in the Nigerian context, judicial independence is monetary stand. That is to say that the judiciary has financial freedom. That is what the Nigerian context of judicial independence means, particularly in this epoch, since 2015 till this very moment that we find ourselves. The principle of judicial independence has become something that gives so many persons, including bookmakers, to ask questions on whether or not the third organ of government, which is judiciary, has propounded, is still what it is in Nigeria. And I want to tell you that immediately after the 2023 presidential elections, 2023 general elections rather, and particularly the presidential tribunal and the outcome, so many persons have now seen the judiciary in Nigeria as a beast of burden. And just now, we also have another one that is hanging on all of us, which is the judgment with respect to Rivers State and the aftermath of the judgment today. So judicial independence, the Nigerian context, to be frank, to be sincere, has to do with only the financial aspects of it. And I think that's what they are enjoying, and that's what they want.
Well, you gave us the Nigerian context, but before we delve deeper into all of this, let's see the role of the judiciary, because we know we have the organs of government. And if we x-ray Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, it speaks voluminously over the issues that regards the powers that has been attributed to the judiciary, to help interpret laws and, of course, adjudicate in this direction for dispute resolutions. Now, what do you see as the deeper meaning in terms of the role the judiciary plays in bringing a balance to the other organs of government?
Well, if we look at the Constitution, the section you just mentioned, Section 6, particularly with particular reference to subsection 6, which gave the judiciary the powers to adjudicate, to interpret law, and both between other organs of government and between citizens, or amongst citizens, as the case may be. Even under the military era, we did see an active judiciary in Nigeria, where the likes justices like Kayode Esho, Mohammed Weiss, Abraham Obaseki, and others, when they gave judgment even against Lagos, even against the military, it was sound. And despite the authoritarian attributes of the military had no choice but to even accept those judgments, as it were. We also saw one during the Obasanjo, during the 2007 presidential election, the tribunal, when it got to the Supreme Court, we saw Justice George Oguntade, JSC as he then was. He dissented in that judgment. And in the judgment, he did say that I will say the truth, even if the heavens will fall. Of course, when the truth is told, the heavens remain in place. That is what we all anticipate to be a judiciary that really carries out its function as spelled out in the Constitution. But today, we begin to witness a lot of things. Like I did say in my introduction, where today, since 2015 to this very moment, so many persons are beginning to raise a lot of questions. And in some seminars that have been delivered, that I've attended, one of the chief judge of a particular state did say something. He said the judiciary is under attack. And some of us raise eyebrow and begin to ask so many questions. Who is indeed attacking the judiciary? And why is the judiciary being attacked? So these are questions that are begging for answers. And that is why today you see judiciary has become a topical issue, particularly in Nigeria, more so that when it has to do with political matters. We begin to see some display of judicial rascality, so to speak.
I said that for us to delve into the functions or what the judiciary should be known for, because I want to look into this area, because a situation where it's expected that, you know, you should resemble or you should be the expectations of what the people demand from you in your office. As that laudable office, you know, organ of government, judiciary, those who are called to serve in that capacity should be people of integrity. And we understand the fact that there are so many underlying factors that could determine or influence or duly, you know, characterize the inability of those persons that are in the cadre, you know, of the judiciary as an organ of government. But let's look at men of integrity. Do you see the possibility that we could be having issues of independence not being guaranteed in the judiciary within the Nigerian context, because we've not seen men of integrity, of caliber, that can stick their necks out, no matter whose ox is God, to speak the truth?
Yes, we cannot make a conclusion with respect of the integrity of those who are sitting on the higher bench, so to speak, because you would not be fair when you make a hasty generalization with respect to the integrity of those who are privileged to be there. However, in a situation where you have, particularly with political matters, and you see even the choice of those who form the panel is something that one must consider in looking at the role and functionality of the Nigerian judiciary. Because at times, those men that have integrity, those men that can rise to the occasion, who would want to ask so many questions and properly use the third eye of the judicial wizardry to come up with good adjudication that will foster peace, that will promote unity, and that will also hold the principle of equality before the law may not be privileged to be there, perhaps because of their principles and the integrity that they are known for. So we keep having situations where there is this political influence that comes in, goes around, and begin to make some adjustments. At the close of the day, you begin to see a majority non-acceptance of such judgments as we have witnessed most recent. And that calls for worry and calls for so many questions, because even the legal minds, those at the academic cadre, begin to use some of what we see today in the temple of justice. They begin to use it to train their students in the classroom, and begin to pinpoint some of these, you call it mistake, you call it error, you call it accident, as the case may be. Begin to use it to ensure that they prepare the mind of their students properly, so that if you are privileged out of this place to be in that place, you should know the needful, you should know what to do and do it properly. So we've come to a situation where so many questions are beginning to pop up with respect to judicial activities in Nigeria. Let me tell you, Mr. Philip, if you go to courts with respect to land issues between two individuals, you will not find so many questions to ask. But when it has to do with political matter, particularly electoral matters, and that's why some of us are of the opinion that when it comes to electoral matters, the judiciary is on trial. And that is another school of thought. Always see the Nigerian judiciary to be on trial.
Okay.
So because of some of the matters we see them handle and how it goes. But I want to tell you that I think at this point in time, one has come to the recognition, acceptability, and conclusion that it is dangerous to allow the judiciary to determine who wins an election, or to determine how an election has gone, so that the judiciary is now facing a lot of challenges with respect to that. Because you see today, the people already have something in mind, and by the time the judgment does not go in consonant with what the people have in mind, you begin to see so many questions for the judiciary.
Okay, well, as regards the electoral issues that you just made mention of, well, it's not far-fetched from the fact that there could be some political or executive influence that could, be generated in that regard. But we'll get there, maybe not in this episode, but maybe in the next episode. But let's look at the role, because we want to see the judiciary, at its peak in terms of having that independence. And you may mention the fact that it has financial autonomy. So you can't take that away. So I think that is a huge step to, embark upon towards the true independence of the judiciary.
Yes, that's why in the Nigerian context, that is what it means to have judicial independence.
It's far, far more than that.
It's far more than that. The adjudication and administration of justice also goes to say or complete or define what judicial autonomy or judicial independence is. Because where the courts cannot adjudicate justice as it ought to be, you cannot say that there is judicial autonomy. You cannot say that there is judicial independence. Where the court is under any pressure, be it political, be it executive, be it legislative, you have a lot of questions to answer. Because like what we have seen of most recent is that one of the functions of judiciary is that judiciary interprets the law.
Exactly.
And in course of the interpretation of the law, judiciary also make law. You get that? So
we can't be very sure about what you just said.
Very sure. I am very sure, and I'm telling you as a legal practitioner.
They aid the making of the laws, but they don't make laws.
For instance,
they could aid the process
they make law
of churning new laws or repealing a law or helping to, profile a better insight, for the lawmakers to go back to the framework, the constitution, and also set a motion in place for the amendment of the constitution. So in that way, they could be seen as aiding lawmaking.
No, I want to tell you now, for instance, the last presidential...
Except you was talking about from judicial presidents.
Yes, judicial presidents. I said that they tend to make law.
Okay.
For instance, the Abuja issue, FCT. Before now, even the constitution does not recognize FCT as a state. But in the interpretation of that, in the last judgment we had, they say Abuja is also like state. That is a law, whether you believe it or not.
Okay. Are you
getting me? So
do you see that as a development that should be applauded?
I do not see it as a development. I see it more as a step towards favoring one of the candidates.
So you see it as a product of bringing in sentiments and bringing about the manifestations of executive influence.
Not just
or being under pressure.
Not just that. I also see it as a judicial error that has come to stay.
Okay. What is the role of the NGC? Outside ratification of positions, who gets what, within the judiciary, and of course also approving those that will be given appointments by the president or the governor. What's the role of the NGC?
Who is the chairman of the NGC?
Oh.
It's like taking a battle to the owner or to the person who is indeed the one that is fighting the battle.
Okay.
So, judiciary, ordinarily, for there to be independence of judiciary or judicial independence is a situation where the judiciary will administer and adjudicate justice without fear or favor.
Okay, so that's where we go to the question you just raised. You're going to answer it.
Yes.
Who is the chairman of the NGC?
The Chief Justice of Nigeria. And he is the one that sets up the panel.
Okay, so do you see an executive function that could intermingle?
I see a political influence, because the question will be, who appoints the Chief Justice of Nigeria?
Good one.
Under former President Muhammadu Buhari, we saw how Justice Onoge was removed, despite the fact that it was the Chief Justice of Nigeria. We saw the whole drama that played out.
Although the Supreme Court later gave victory.
Gave victory and restored him.
Yeah, no.
So where is the victory? So these are issues that are begging for answers. People keep asking. Nigerians are asking. Even the international community is asking, what is really going on with the Nigerian judiciary? Why do we have so much political interference or influence on the judiciary? With this political interference or influence, as the case may be, do we now have judicial independence? And if the judiciary was indeed independent in Nigeria, and we see it play so, I don't think you and I will be discussing today. But because there are issues, because there are challenges, despite the bookwork that we have judicial independence, so questions are being asked. So if we are to go back to the Constitution, the position of the Constitution as encapsulated in section 6 of the Constitution, does the Nigerian judiciary play the role as spelled out in that section of the Constitution?
Okay, you made mention of the office of the Chief Justice of the country, as the chairman of the NGC, if I got you right. So if we're to look at the democratic tenets, democracy, all that we talk about in Nigeria, what do you see as key factors that can help to, promote the independence of the judiciary?
Now, if we talk of democracy in Nigeria, to my mind, what we are practicing just now is not democracy, to my mind. Then if we want to look at democracy and democratic practice that will aid independence of the judiciary, then we must talk of tenets of democracy. And what are the tenets of democracy? Equality before the law.
Exactly, I was going there.
Due process of law. Separation of power. So, all of these that I've mentioned, do we have them play out in our democratic dispensation? Instead, what we have just now is like what played out in Animal Farm, George Orwell's piece, where all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
All right, let me quickly cut in case you're just watching, as Law New, and is brought to you courtesy of Noah Attorneys, a firm of legal practitioners based in Benin City, Nigeria. Do well to interact with us via the numbers right in on the screen, and that could also help to pan out a new episode. Don't forget, it's about the independence of the judiciary and how we can make it work here in Nigeria. And I've been speaking with Emmanuel Obakpolo, a custodian of the law. Now, do you seem to say that the system of government we run, like the presidential system, for instance, zeroes too much powers into the office of the president? That could also make it difficult for us to have, the independence of the judiciary.
Yes. For instance, the constitution, the extant constitution has 67 powers. 63 to the president, to the executive. 1 to legislature. 1 to the judiciary. The remainder one is shared between the executive and the legislature. Invariably, you would agree with me that the executive has 65 powers out of 67. So in that kind of situation, how do you think there could be independence of the judiciary? That is the third organ of government.
Well, that's a question that we will be panning out answers to probably in the next episode, because we can't really exhaust this in this episode. Big thanks for being part of this, Emmanuel Obakpolo. Well, your questions will help us to look into the next episode, because we're going to be also, starting from where we left off as regards this topic that has to do with the independence of the judiciary within the Nigerian context. We have Section 6 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, and how this can be done, to bring, decorum, into this topic, most especially as it borders on Nigerians, looking at elections in Nigeria and how we can make judiciary really the hope of the common man, as we usually say. Well, do well to join us same time next week. I am Philip Omo Gyupo. Bye for now.